Welcome to the channel everyone. Let's continue further with the questions. So this question says, is P plus Q plus R greater than P minus Q plus R, where P, Q and R are integers? So these are the two statements given now. P minus Q is positive and P minus R is negative. Now they say which one of the following is correct in respect of the above question and these statements. So they're asking that how can this question be answered? Like, do we need to use both the statements or just one statement is enough, or we cannot answer the question even by both these statements? First we'll write here P plus Q plus minus R, and then we have P minus Q plus R. So since they are saying that this particular thing is, since they are asking that P plus Q minus R is greater than P minus Q plus R, we can subtract these two and we can get the result as P plus Q minus R minus P plus Q and then minus R, like the signs here change. Then this again gives us, so we can cancel here P and we can write here 2Q minus 2R. This will be the result if we subtract these. So this is what they are asking, that is P plus Q minus R is greater than this, where P, Q and R are integers. So now the statement one says that P minus Q is positive. So suppose we subtract 2 from 4, we get the answer as 2. And when we subtract 4 from 2, we get the answer as minus 2. So basically, whenever addition or subtraction takes place, the sign that is present at the higher value. For example, right now the negative sign is present at the in front of 4. So we'll take up as this sign. And here in front of 4 we have the sign as plus. So here the answer will also have plus. This is a basic rule that says that the sign in the answer will be that particular sign which will be there in front of the higher value number. For example, here the value of 4 is higher than just 2 if we see just numerically without the signs. So here when they say that P minus Q is positive, we need to understand that P is greater than Q, because if Q was to be greater than P, the answer would have been negative. And the second statement says that P minus R is negative, which means that P is smaller than R, which means that R is greater than P. Now since we have these two things to compare, what we can write as an inference is, see, P is again greater than Q, but it is smaller than R, which means that Q is smaller than R. This is what we have got here. So here also if we take out 2 common, like 2 doesn't matter here. So if we just focus upon this thing that Q minus R. So obviously P plus Q minus R will not be greater than P minus Q plus R. Because see here the conclusion we have received is that R is greater than Q. And here we are subtracting R from Q. So obviously this particular question, the answer for this question is no. And from these options, if we need to select, the answer will be C. That is, the question can be answered by using both the statements together, but cannot be answered using either of the statement alone. So for example, if just the statement 1 was given, so we would have not been able to compare these like P, Q and R that we just now did here. So it was necessary for us to have both the statements, and only then you were able to answer the question. Now the next question says, consider the question and 2 statements given below. And this question says, is x an integer? And then we have 2 such statements which say that x divided by 3 is not an integer. And statement 2 says 3x is an integer. See which one of the following is correct in respect of the question and the statements. So again the same type of question, this particular question is that we need to select the option in accordance with which statements are necessary for us to answer this particular question. And can we even answer this question or not? Like, are these both statements sufficient or not? So the question says कि x जो है वो integer है या नहीं. And for the case of statement 1, if we see, so we'll just try to put in such numbers in the form of examples so that we can find out the various cases. For example, here they say that x divided by 3 is not an integer. So first we can try by writing an integer, and then we can try by writing that x upon 3 is not equal to an integer, right? So it is not an integer का case ये हो गया, and this is an integer, like 5.3 is not an integer. तो एक ये वाली चीज हो गई, and this can be another case. So here if we check, x will be equal to 3. So x is an integer, and again here if we check, see 3 gets cancelled, so again we'll have x as an integer. But if we take another example, for example here I write x upon 3 is equal to 5 upon 4. Then here it becomes factors are 15 and then upon 4. Now here x is not equal to an integer. Then if we move on to the statement 2, यानी कि statement 1 से हमें कोई ऐसा एक inference नहीं मिल रहा है. There are cases when x is an integer and there are cases when x is not an integer. Now then we check for 3x is an integer. So in case of is an integer we can write here 15. In case of not an integer we can write here as perhaps 3 upon 4. And after solving we'll get x is equal to, here we'll get x as 5. So here it is an integer. And here if we get x is equal to 1 upon 4. So here x is not an integer. So obviously these two statements are not sufficient to answer the question कि x integer है या नहीं, because we are getting both the cases where x is not an integer and where x is an integer, right? So the answer for this question will be D, that is both statement 1 and statement 2 are not sufficient to answer this particular question. Moving on to the question, 3 of the 5 positive integers. So basically these are 5 positive integers are even. So इनमें से 3 है. So we have here 5, that is P, Q, R, S and T. And out of these any 3 are even. So 3 we have as even and 2 we have as odd. Right, so any 3 and any 2 are even and odd respectively, but they are not necessarily in order, which means that P, Q and R, it is not necessary that P, Q and R should be even and S and T should be odd. We do not know कि इनमें से कौन से 3 odd even है and कौन से 2 odd है. Then for the first statement we have P plus Q plus R minus S minus T is definitely even. So for this we need to understand the concept that says that in case of addition or in case of subtraction, in these particular cases, any example that we take, if we add or subtract an even number, like two even numbers, if we add or subtract, the result that we'll get will be even. If we add or subtract two odd numbers, the result that we'll get will also be even. But if we add or subtract an even and an odd number, then the result that we'll get is odd. So these three inferences are important to remember, and the way I remembered them was, see, if they are same, for example even, even, odd, odd, then the result will be even, and if they are different, the result will be odd. And the order here does not matter, it does not matter at all. So this is one inference that we must remember for this question. So here see we have all these numbers, and see here also it does not matter order कि हम पहले add कर रहे हैं subtract कर रहे हैं. This does not matter here, like the board mass rule and stuff. Now the first point here says P plus Q plus R minus S minus T is definitely even. So again see we have discussed this particular thing before as well in previous questions. अगर वो बोलता है can be even, can be odd, then we need just one example to prove. But if it says definitely, we need to be 100% sure कि हर केस में चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए, इस जो स्टेटमेंट है इसका रिजल्ट हमेशा odd या हमेशा even ही होएगा रिस्पेक्टिवली. अगर वो बोलेगी definitely या फिर it uses other words like should always be, So all these kind of words we must understand that what exactly are they trying to say. So accordingly we need to select our examples. कितने example लेने हैं, क्या हमें prove करना है, that we must focus upon in these type of statement and question. So p plus q plus r minus s minus t is definitely even. Now they say कि ये definitely even है, which means कि no matter कौन सा number क्या है, the result should be even. Now since we have already discussed कि subtraction और addition का फर्क नहीं पड़ता, we will not focus upon the operation. We will just focus upon कि हमारे result क्या आ रहा है. So if we suppose that these three are even and these two are odd, if we suppose this, so even if I first add like this even number and this odd number or perhaps subtract, then I'll get an odd answer. Right? We can just write here. We get an odd. Then we are left with even, even and then odd. तो अगर हम एक even एक odd को कर लेते हैं, again we'll get an odd. Then we'll be left with an even. Now see, these two will again be odd and these two will be even. तो यानी कि इस केस में even आ रहा है. And no matter in whatever case you try, कैसे भी order कर लो, चाहे इनको पहले add कर ले, again we'll get even. Then we'll be left with even. The operation we do not know here, so I'm just randomly writing. Then odd plus odd will again be even. So after adding these even, we'll again get even. So in case, no matter in what way we check, the answer will always be even. And that depends on the understanding कि दो और जो हैं वो मिलकर के even बना रहे हैं. And then all that we are left with is even. तो हम add करेंगे तो जो final answer है that will be even. Which means that this first statement is correct. This particular thing will definitely be even. It will always be even. No matter कि इनमें से कौन सा odd है and कौन सा even है. Then if you focus upon the second statement, 2p q 2r minus 2s plus t is definitely odd. So here there's another concept that we must know. See, if I multiply 4 by 2, what I get is even. Here we can take x as variable. So if I x को 4 लिया, then I get an even result. If here I take x as an odd number लिया 3, even then I get an even result. So obviously these all will be the multiple of 2, so all these numbers will be even. This is one thing to remember. So if I multiply any number by 2, the result that I will get will be even. Now they say that इसमें देखो 3 terms हमारे पास ऐसी हैं which are making even. So like we have 2p plus q plus 2r minus 2s plus t. And they are saying that it is definitely odd. कि मतलब ये odd ही है. अब हमें ये check करना है तो definitely odd तो ठीक है, मान लिया कि odd हो सकता है, बट अगर हमने ये prove कर दिया कि इनका जो sum है, जो end result आ रहा है, that is even, then we can say that this statement is wrong. So we need to check all the possibilities कि कहीं ये कभी भी even तो नहीं हो सकता. So see, one case will be these numbers will definitely be even, right? These numbers means 2p, 2r and 2s. I'm not talking about separately p, r and s, but after multiplying the result that we get will definitely be even. Now in case of these three, if we assume one thing, अब cases क्या हो सकता है कि यानी कि p, r and s, इनमें से the case can be that two numbers are such which are both even. एक तो ये केस हो जाएगा even even. One case will be that two numbers are odd, and one case can be that one is even and one is odd. So after that we'll check. तो first case में अगर हम check करें कि suppose कोई भी दो numbers even है, so if we think that p and r are even, तो ये सब तो even होएगा तो इनका sum तो even आएगा. That is the sum of these circles. That will be even. अगर p और r या फिर r और s even होए तो. We are just assuming. Then q and t will be left with odd, right? इनका जो sum आएगा q और t का, that will be odd. The reason being, अगर ये जो p है, okay, suppose we have one more number that is even, तो इन तीनों का अगर हम classification करें, then we'll have odd, 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 and then we can have this particular case. तो again even, even, odd. एक ये case हो सकता है. These are the only four possible cases. एंड सिंस यहाँ पे ऑर्डर मैटर नहीं कर रहा, वी वोंट फोकस अपॉन द ऑर्डर. तो अगर ये तीनों इवन हुए, देन ऑड प्लस ऑड विल बी इक्वल टू, ओके, सो सपोज पी, आर एंड एस ऑल थ्री आर इवन. तो व्हेन वी ऐड दीज, the result that we'll get will be even, and then we'll be left with Q and T, and Q and T will be odd if P, R and S are even, because it has mentioned, right, that the rest two will be odd. Then odd numbers if we'll add, the result we'll get will be even, plus or minus whatever the operation is, and after adding or subtracting the result we'll get will be even. तो पहली condition ने ही ये चीज prove कर दिया है that it can be even, so it is not definitely odd. जब ये result आ रहा है तो हमारे पास even है, and then we can consequently check with the other cases just for the sake of understanding here. You can check it yourself, and then we can understand that what approach we actually use and what are the different cases. इनमें वो cases भी आ रहे हैं when the result will be odd. So we can check it from the other options as well कि हम randomly किसी को भी कोई value दे सकते हैं. And these are for the three numbers, that is the variables P, R and S. So this statement is wrong, and when they ask which of the above statements is or are correct, so the answer for this question will be one only. And I'm repeating this fact that we need to focus upon the word that is present here, whether it is definitely, whether it is should be, whether it is always be, or whether it can be. So we need to focus upon such terms, okay, what exactly is meant by them, and then we should start, and accordingly we should choose our numbers, and the need of what we need to prove should always be in our mind. Thank you.